The cut curve command is a way for you to chop a curve, basically divide it into two curves, using another curve that intersects it. Here's what I mean. Let me go ahead and create a couple of curves. So here's a curve, and here's a curve. Notice how they intersect one another. Now, if I come over here and I grab my cut curve operation, let's open up the options box. I have all the options for this, and some of these are a little bit vague and won't work quite the way you expect, but don't worry about that. It's quite all right. What we're going to do is select one curve, in this case the horizontal one, then the more vertical one, and notice we have in 2D and 3D. The in 2D part refers to your active view. So, like if I click apply right now, we end up with a curve that is divided, both curves actually in this case, boom, boom, they're chopped, and they're chopped here. Notice the point where they were cut, right here at the intersection. Now, if I were to undo and select these two curves, and let's grab one curve, we'll move it up above the other, the fact that this says in 2D and 3D means that Maya will be looking in the active view to see if these still intersect, which, because we're looking through perspective, you can see that they intersect through perspective. I can come over here to the top, and they still kind of intersect, and I can hit apply, and, let's make sure I select both curves, apply, and in this case, check it out, everything works. Like so. So if we come over here, we did get a split from the top view. The in 2D part for this curve, where it says in 2D and 3D, 2D refers to an orthographic view. So if you're looking to use the 2D part of it, make sure you are looking through an orthographic view. If you try to do this in perspective, you can hit apply, and it says could not find curve intersection. So that's where that kind of doesn't entirely work the way you might expect it to. If you are planning on using the perspective view to see if two curves are intersecting, it's very simple. All you need to do is jump down to Use Direction and check Active View. And what this is going to do is use whatever view you happen to be looking through, in this case perspective, click Apply, and Maya will do its best to create an intersection point based on where you are looking in the perspective view. So very easy. Now you can also choose other directions as well. You can see if these guys intersect when moving in the y-axis, x-axis, or z-axis. For example, if I were to take this curve and we rotated it like so, then we could see that there would be an intersection in the y-axis if we were to move up and down. There would be an intersection if we were to move in the z-axis, and it doesn't look like they would intersect in x, though if I were to take this curve and rotate it, then indeed they would. So you actually be able to get an intersection in all three. For example, if I select both of the curves, choose X and click Apply, notice what happened was basically, theoretically, the two curves were moved in the x-axis toward one another, and the point where they would have intersected each other has now been split. So you can see this curve was split right here, and this curve was split right here. Very, very easy. All right, now let me go ahead and set this back to 2D and 3D. Actually, let's just do active view. It'll probably be easiest for us, just for the sake of example. Now, we can choose to cut at all intersections or just cut using the last curve, which is the last curve that you selected, naturally. So if I select like so, notice the green curve is the last one I selected. Check using last curve and click Apply. Notice that only the first curve was cut. The last curve I selected remains just like it was because it was the curve that was used more like a tool than anything else. Now, we can also choose which parts of the curve we're going to keep. We can keep the longest segments. So like so, notice we delete off the shortest segments. We can choose to keep all curve segments, which is the setting by default, or segments with curve points. So let me set this to all intersections for now. And we'll grab a curve point here, and then I'll select this curve and click Apply. And notice it kept this side of this curve because I had actually placed a curve point on this side. In effect, I told Maya, keep this side and delete the other side. Finally, you have the Use Tolerance area, and this is going to refer to Maya's global tolerance settings over in the settings window. Let me kind of show you what that is. Basically, this is going to allow you to control the accuracy of your cut curves versus their original. If you leave this set to global, you can open up your preferences and go under settings, and you'll notice that our tolerance is set to positional, 0.01 or 100th in this case. So our tolerance is going to tell us how accurately our cut curves are going to resemble their original in 1/100th of a unit. So the accuracy is down to 1/100th of a unit for how close we get to our original surface. If you want, you can override this by clicking over to local, and now of course you can see by default this is much finer tolerance, and you can set this as high as you want. For the most part, for just about every operation you're ever going to use, you can leave this set to global and not worry about it. Then of course in the end you can choose to keep your original curves, which is a great way to get access to any sort of history. So we can click apply, and so what did it say, nothing was selected, or was there a problem? Boom, no curve points were selected. Oh, I gotcha. That's just telling us, hey, you didn't designate which side you want to keep, so we're not going to throw anything away, which is fine. But now we have a nice detached curve node. We also have access to the original curve. So we have our two split parts, and we have our original, meaning that I can adjust the original curve and history will flow through. So that's really all there is to the cut curves command, and you can use this in a lot of different ways. This is a great way to split up a spline cage, if you will, into different segments that you can patch model. For example, let me create kind of a network of curves. Like so. Now, if I wanted to turn each of these sections into a separate patch, I could start out, one of the ways I can do this is I can start off by selecting all of these curves and go to Edit Curves, and I can cut them. And let me change my settings just a little bit for the sake of this example. We'll switch off Keep Original. We'll do all intersections, and let's just do this in 2D and 3D, and cut. And now what I end up with is a separate curve at each area. So I could actually grab all 4 sections and go to surfaces and do something like a boundary, which will create a surface there. So it's just kind of a quick example of one of the ways that you can use the Cut Curves command. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks a lot.